training, and they come in and they're free, you know, because the town is pitching a bid over chief hiring all these people and spending the city money. He said, okay, we've got to have a meeting. Look, these people are free. They're through a teaching program, and we're just training them, so back off.
Well, I think
I'll email you all the time.
Okay. Okay, it's gonna be your homework. And there's your clock. We're gonna be late for Bible study, because the other's been bad.
Tell us about Dodge
Oh yeah, Dot had another 2 minor strokes.
today.
No, yesterday.
Yesterday.
And yesterday morning, and so they rushed her to the hospital. She was in the emergency room for maybe about at least up until
A day.
late in the evening, and
Yeah.
yeah, she got a room. She's in room 3310. And Angel and Arthur and I, we went to go by and, to see her today, and surprisingly, she's still able to talk. She's active. She's able to talk and everything, and so
She's in the best ward. I mean, she's in the best part. That the nurses there are much sweeter than they are on the second.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of her nurses was actually Jason, one of the elders over at Foothills that I've been talking with. Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. And so he came and saw me, and he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, brother?" Yeah. And so it was awesome. And you know, Lisa and Tommy, they were there, and so yeah. And so Dot was so happy to see Arthur. Oh man, no, she's like, "You better bring that boy right over here." Yeah, right by where I can see and play with his little toesies, and she was playing with his little toesies, and so she was very active. And while we were there, they did get the what's that word I'm looking for? I guess they go ahead and take her off the IV. Yeah.
So she'll be coming home soon.
No, she's going back to Sherwood, I think.
Most
Oh,
likely,
no.
yeah. Right now, they're waiting to hear from the doctors in Little Rock. You know, to see what they do next. And right now, they don't know what caused the stroke. If it's another blood clot, they're still waiting for, I guess, information on that. And so, gotta continue on keeping her in our prayers.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
Just for the record, blood clots have been very rampant.
Really?
Yes, and aneurysms.
That wouldn't surprise me. Does it affect also, I guess, the taking of your blood?
The what?
The taking of your blood, like if they need to take blood and not much blood comes out in that area, is that also part of it?
Well, it could be, the vessel could be blocked where it's been rerouted if they decide, but usually that vein will collapse and it will, we call it blow.
Yeah.
They had to use an ultrasound for Sarge.
Yeah,
They
if
could
they're
not
dehydrated
get-
and their kidneys are not functioning, then the
Yeah.
veins won't.
Well, that was his problem. His kidneys were just shutting down.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the creatinine, like, they had to do a CT today on a man whose creatinine was almost 2, and I was like reluctant. But and there's a contrast shortage nationwide, so trying to find these blood clots, people are going to be coming to the hospital and won't be able to get treated because we don't have it. We don't have the contrast. We got kind of 23 bottles left, and they're kind of getting from Peter to Paul.
We're in such trouble in every field.
Mm-hmm.
For a while there was the saline, which hydrates patients, and I was over ordering just so I'd have backup and
Yeah.
stash.
Yeah.
Well, we were doing that with the contrast, and they said the shipment because it comes from China.
Oh boy.
they're not-
Why?
You don't want me to. I mean,
Does that have
Our
anything to do with
country's
the
selling us
sanctions?
out.
Is that it?
Huh?
I mean, are you saying that like China's not sending them over at all?
No, there's no shipments. They're restricting everything because they claim it's because they're in strict lockdown right now for the minor cases they got over there. So there's no workers to load the ships or unload the ships. So anything that has to be shipped out is not going anywhere because there's nothing on the ship to be
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's
Ah, boy.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The Great Reset.
Mm-hmm.
Like the price of gas, I thought it was supposed to get cheaper. $4 in Heber.
It's getting close to $4 in Cersei. It's about like $3.80, $3.88 right now.
That's cheap. I paid $3.87 at Tangburn. I said, oh my God, it's 13 cents cheap.
Yeah.
Bangor grocery store is always
Yeah.
the least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you buy groceries in there and use your card, then you'll
Yeah. Now, I know they save me money. I tried that at Sugarloaf, and you buy stuff and it gives you a discount.
Yeah.
And I compared it to Pangburn Grocery. I said, where did I save any money? It was supposed to be $3.38 a gallon because it was $3.59 at the time.
Mhm.
And I had the same amount of gallons, half a tank, it was an empty tank for
Yeah.
me. Because I don't like that big, huge
Yeah.
figure when I fill
Yeah.
up from my empty tank. And it was the same amount. I'm like, they ain't saving no money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They play with the numbers somehow. I said, I'm not telling you my phone number, no. Not keeping tabs of what I buy.
Oh, but man.
Hopefully he'll be good. He hasn't had a nap all day.
Oh, whoa.
I thought he was gonna sleep, but he's not.
Which you're missing out.
Stickles, yes, stickles. Is that what that policeman was asking when you said he had stickers?
Yeah,
For what? To give to him?
I guess, I don't know.
What a way to introduce himself.
Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer.
Say
And we will.
say a word of thank you.
Absolutely.
God
Mhm.
took care of the cancer,
Yep. Yeah.
Who's cancer?
Heard
Neck
yesterday.
cancer.
skin cancer.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, we kind of
I
kept
was
it on
wondering, I was
the.
like, that's on the opposite side of your. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to agree. Hey, Gwen, what's
It could
that?
be on this side, but there you go. Now I'm even.
Yeah. But I got that taken care of. So absolutely, gonna say a prayer of thanksgiving for that. Let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer, then we'll begin. Heavenly Father, we come before you, and first we want to just express our gratitude and our thanksgiving to you for being such an awesome God who hears our prayers and who knows our thoughts and our hearts, and you know what it is that we need in our life, Father, and you always provide it for us each and every day, even at times when we just don't expect it. And we are just very thankful to know that you give us these unexpected blessings and you answer our prayers and our requests that we have. Requests such as on behalf of Sister Gwen with the cancer within her face, and seeing that yesterday they were able to remove all of it, and now she's got no spots of cancer within her, and we just thank you so much for answering our prayers for that, and we rejoice with Sister Gwen on that, and we will continue on rejoicing in regards to such an awesome and wonderful God that we have. And we know that you hear our prayers as we lift them up before you concerning our sister Dot, who had suffered another stroke, a couple strokes, and but we are very thankful and blessed to see such, I guess, just tremendous progress that she's already made so far, that she's still able to communicate, that she's still alert and awake and active, and I ask that you just continue on blessing her and watching over her, be with the family, Lisa, Sonny, and Glenda, because knowing they've just been spending and sacrificing a lot of time just to be by their mom's side, and it's a great example for everyone to see, to know how close the family is, and we thank you so much just for their wonderful example, and just ask that you give them strength and comfort, encouragement, and a peace of mind that they need at this time, knowing that Sister Dot is just in good hands, not just the hands of the doctors, but she's in good hand in the sense of the wonderful and awesome God who controls the entire universe. And we are very blessed to know that we have such an awesome God. And we ask also that you continue on being with Sister Glenda Sue, knowing that she is continuing her rehabilitation and that she has just been improving greatly. And if it be your will, Father, that she can be able to return home at the end of this weekend. We thank you so much just for all the hard work that the people there at the physical therapy home and that has just been spending time with her to improve her and to help her get better so that she can be able to be back home where she belongs. And we thank you again just for all the answered prayers. We thank you so much for listening to us, Father, and we thank you so much for your Son Jesus, who made this all possible. And we want to lift up to you all those other requests of those that we've been praying for diligently, and even just requests that are unspoken. We want to lift them up to you at this time. We thank you for this opportunity that we have of continuing on studying through Ecclesiastes, as we know that when we have you in our life, we can have meaning and purpose and value. You are such an awesome God, and we thank you. And it's our prayer through your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. Okay, we are in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And last Wednesday we finished off at verse 3. And in chapter 7, Solomon, really, I would say that's at the start of chapter 7, verse 1, all the way through chapter 8, verse 17, he is focusing on proper perspective on life. With God, man can have a proper perspective or a proper view on life. And in chapter 7, verses, I'd say 1 through 13, he's going to be focusing a lot on what we refer to as the better than lifestyle. The better than lifestyle. And this better than approach that he uses is somewhat of a proverbial or a wise type of style in expressing some sort of truth. And in this type of style, it's two truths that are stacked on top of each other. He mentions one truth statement, and since that is true, then the next statement is just as true as the first one he made. And again, with our finite human minds, we read some of those statements, better than statements, and we at first are kind of at a loss. Because we look at it from just a human perspective and we say to ourselves, how in the world is the day of one's death better than the day of one's birth? Why is that? If you recall what we had discussed last Wednesday.
Because the one who died is now finished with the trials of life, and they're getting their reward.
That's right.
The one who is born has all of the trials of life in front of him.
That's right. And when you connect it back to verse 1, where he talks about a good name is better than precious ointment. You know, a person who is born, yeah, it's a blessing. I mean, Solomon's not denying that seeing a new child being brought to this world is, in fact, just a beautiful sight, and it's a wonderful blessing. But as far as trying to weigh which is better, he says, actually, death is better, because the person who's born, they have to face the trials of this life. They have to see the evil in this life, and not only that, but they haven't even built themselves a good reputation yet. And then so, what he is saying is just the fact that after a person dies, it's far better because they've lived a faithful life. And again, he's looking at it with God. With God. And so, the person who dies is obviously talking about one who has died in Christ. And so, that is far better because they lived the faithful life. They finished the race. And when they approach that end of their lifetime, they can look back on a life well lived. A life well lived for the Lord. And they leave behind themselves a wonderful legacy for others to imitate and to exemplify and to put it to practice in their own life. And so he goes on then to say that it is better to go to the house of mourning. Again, with death still in perspective, he says it's better to go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting. And why is that?
Almost the same reasons, but the house of feasting, you may be tempted to forget God.
That's right. Absolutely. What goes on at the house of mourning? It's like a funeral service. And so the person who is really taken to heart, and I guess the one who's conducting the funeral sermon and the one who's reading the eulogy, the person who's sitting there and really taking it to heart, what kind of questions are they asking themselves?
where am I going to go?
Where am I going to go?
Life is imminent.
Yes.
Life is precious, but death is imminent.
That's right. And
It made my neighbors think he never ever attends services, but he wanted to come to service, and it made him stop and think. His wife said he was really taking it in.
Yeah. And it's good that he is. That's really good that he is. Because
So it was better for him to go to that house of mourning than it was when we had our neighborhood party and everybody was acting ugly and
Absolutely. And then so, funerals are sad events from a human perspective. We weep for those who have lost loved ones. And so he goes on to say in verse 3, which is where we left off, sorrow is better than laughter. For by sadness of face, the heart is made glad. And so a person's face reflects that countenance, that sorrow, but he or she can still be happy or glad in their heart. The person can be happy and glad that they are still alive. They can be glad and thankful that he can return to those whom he loves, and is grateful that he can still have an opportunity to right the wrongs that he has done in his life, and with the opportunity of getting his own life right with God. And so, even though funerals, the house of mourning, can be a very sad event, that sorrowness is better. It's better than the laughter, because your heart can still be glad. It can still be glad, it can still be happy and thankful to know that you can be able to make things right. Make things right with others and make things right with God, more importantly. And so we left off there last week, and we continue on with this better than statement of wise sayings. Verse 4, he says, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. And so Solomon observed that the mind or heart of the wise is in the house of mourning. This is the first mention, I would say, of wisdom in chapter 7. Even though it's the first time that he has mentioned it in this chapter, it is a recurring theme. We will see it again in the next verse, verse 5, verse 7, 10, 11, 12, and 16, and 19, and 23, and 25. And so wisdom is still a recurring theme. The wise person allows death to provoke thoughts and meditation. Again, recognizing that death comes to all, that it's inevitable. He contemplates the eternal destiny of the deceased and ponders whether or not deeds were left undone or words were left unsaid. So it is a serious time for him as he is in the house of mourning meditating. He reflects on the truth regarding which side of eternity that he will end up on. But fools, on the other hand, they do not want to think about death. But if they do, they end up having the wrong attitude towards it. Sometimes the fool will say, oh yeah, death does come to all, but that's why we just need to live life to the fullest.
eat, drink, and be merry.
Eat, drink, and be merry. And so sometimes, the fool does have a thought on death. They do see death as inevitable, but they have no thought on the afterlife at all. Your mind is fixed on the house of pleasure, or mirth, some versions may say. Yeah, mirth. It's a Hebrew word for pleasure. So that's why Solomon goes on to say in verse 5, he says, it is better to listen to the rebuke of the wise person, for one to listen to the song of fools. So this foolish person who's in the house of pleasure or the house of mirth, he has listened to foolish songs. And Solomon says that if he wants to get his life straightened out, he really needs to hear the rebuke from a wise person. The song of fools is associated with the house of pleasure, the house of feasting. While being in the carefree atmosphere of a party may sound like a better option than attending a funeral, Solomon says, no, that is not the case at all. While songs in and of themselves are not necessarily evil, songs of fools are.
Oh, there's some today that are evil.
Oh yeah. I mean, the songs of fools are evil. Yeah, but songs in general, in and of themselves, are not evil. But Solomon says that the songs of fools, foolish songs, are evil. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, to what kind of music do we listen to? We often gripe about modern day music, and we tend to snarl at the little kids and teens and say, "Oh, the music that you kids listen to these days. Y'all need to go back and listen to some real music. Yeah, some real music like Elvis Presley." And it's like, well, have you ever heard some of his songs?
His gospel songs, maybe, but
The gospel songs? Oh,
yeah,
well, he's got some songs that are foolish,
yeah, he does.
very foolish, or even maybe 80s music.
Mm-hmm.
And so, really, we can't just apply this to teenagers today and their music. No, we need to ask ourselves a question: what kind of music are we listening to? Are the singers the kind of people that we can respect? No. Nope. Should children of God be listening to, singing with, and memorizing the message that they convey? Now, well, granted, a lot of the 80s songs, man, they got some great beats. I love 80s music. I mean, and they got some great beats and everything until I eventually then begin to realize some of those lyrics, and I'm just like, whoa. The Eagles, I love the Eagles, but Life in the Fast Lane, you know what that's about? Woo, that's not a good song to be listening to, and I'd say even singing along with. Or Don Henley, The Boys of the Summer, that's a one-hit wonder that he made when he went solo, but that song's about a guy who's so desperate about a woman who's constantly out, sleeping with a bunch of guys that are known to be the boys of the summer. That's what the song's about. Pretty messed up. But yet, we kind of listen to those songs, and we kind of have the lyrics memorized, and we just start singing it out loud, almost on autopilot. I've been guilty of that. I really have. I have been guilty of that. And so, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of music do we listen? Are the singers those that we can respect? Are the lyrics appropriate? Are the messages in the song appropriate? But Solomon says that the better choice would be to listen to the rebuke of a wise person. So man, I would say, just naturally almost, has the tendency to avoid people who would confront them. Avoid people such as the wise person in this case. He prefers to spend time with those who sing songs of no value, which is the fools. He seeks the path of, least resistance, like flowing water, I would say. But wise associates would tell this person how to improve his life and to get his priorities right. They would rebuke him to help him become a better person.
Wouldn't that make him more of a rebel, though?
What's that?
If the people that rebuke him for listening to songs that are poor choice, wouldn't that sometimes make them be a rebel?
Make who to be a rebel? The wise person doing the rebuking, or the
person being rebuked at?
The person being rebuked at. Oh yeah, they are. I mean, they're acting like a rebel. I mean, that's why he refers to this person as being the fool. The
Well, I
fool.
have to confess, when I'm listening to the radio and I'm traveling, and I turn to some talk show, I know it would be better for me, but it's going to be long and boring, and I don't want to hear it, so I go to music.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I will say that what kind of helps me a lot is, of course, sometimes in certain cases you may need like a smartphone or something like that, where you can actually have access to books of the Bible audio speaking, and they just read, from the books of the Bible, and that's what I have, and that helps me a lot. But as for those who may not have a smartphone, you can still be able to order certain CDs or tapes. Of books of the Bible being read. I would suggest doing that.
And they do. Some places sell wonderful devotionals
Mm-hmm.
on CDs that are by different people,
Mhm.
different testimonies, but they always quote scripture and talk about it.
They do. That's good.
But they make it a modern day, very interesting thing.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so they kind of make it like modern and relevant.
Okay, they give like you sometimes start with a story or something that has happened.
Yeah.
They usually will give something that's happened in their life.
Oh, like an illustration, basically.
An
Yeah.
illustration,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then they give the scriptures that tell why they should have been different or what they did to help them do better with.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are more interesting to me than just the straight out scriptures. If
Yeah.
I got somebody explaining it,
Yeah.
I'll listen.
It'll
Yeah,
absorb it
listen.
better.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's always a way that you can be able to get actual sermons, burned on like a CD or something that you can listen to. And I know there's other certain websites within the Brotherhood that you can go to that upload their sermons audio. There's our YouTube channel that we have, Penguin Church of Christ, and you can go on that and go back, and we already have like hundreds of videos uploaded. And so go back and watch old sermons, old Bible classes, and so there's ways that have been given to us and which we can use to help us avoid, I guess, listening to those songs of fools. But the wise person, in this case, he basically just rebukes this foolish person and says that you need to get your life straightened out. You need to get your head on straight. And that involves confrontation. That involves confrontation. Sometimes, who knows, and in the case, you may be that wise person that needs to confront that foolish person and, rebuke them. Rebuke them saying that, look, you're acting like a fool. Get your life straightened out. Get your priorities right. Get your life right with God, first and foremost. Boy, my grandfather was good at that. When I was a rebel, boy, he was good at that. He was that wise person that kept rebuking me, and eventually, finally, it clicked. And he was right. He was right. At first, when I was that fool and that rebel, I thought he was wrong, but no. But now I look back, and no, he was right. He was absolutely right. And so, Solomon goes on in verse 6, using an illustration. He says, "For as the crackling of thorn bushes under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool, and this too is futility." So, in discussing the futility of the fool's jesting, Solomon made a pun in the Hebrew text. And the Hebrew text says this: "For as the crackling of thorn bushes under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool." So, perhaps the best English equivalent for the first line is like nettles crackling under kettles. Like nettles crackling under kettles. The expression compares the fool's laughter to a sudden flame. It flashes up quickly and makes a great noise, but it is soon gone. And why is it that foolish laughter doesn't last long?
Because we're fools and all good things come to an end. Fun thing.
Well, when we look at the overall context, this is a person who is in the house of feasting, he's in the house of pleasure, who's partying, He's listening to foolish songs, who has a horrible reputation. Their laughter quickly vanishes because it's empty. Simply as that. Simple as that. It's empty. It vanishes quickly because it is empty. It has having no basis in reality. So the 16th vanity, the 16th one, is associating with foolish friends or comedy that do not think soberly about life. Say that again. The 16th vanity is associating with foolish friends or comedy that do not think soberly about life. So, like songs, is laughter in and of itself a bad thing?
No.
No. But the laughter of the fool is a bad thing.
Well, usually a foolish person doesn't want to think any sober thoughts. They want to be happy and laughing, and they're gonna turn away from anything that's not frivolous.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So a question that we have to ask ourselves here as far as application goes, what do we find ourselves laughing at? Do we find ourselves laughing at inappropriate things?
Guilty sometimes.
Oh, me too. I've been guilty. I know that I have been guilty. I mean, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I mean, there's this TV show called Impractical Jokers. Yeah, but yeah, some of the things that they do are a little bit funny, and I guess an innocent way. But most of it, I'd say 90% of it, is very inappropriate. Very inappropriate. And so I've been guilty of laughing at that show when I shouldn't be. Now, perhaps we may not be laughing in inappropriate or laughing at inappropriate or crude humor, but we could be laughing in the form of mockery or arrogance. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. There have been times when I have witnessed someone snickering and shaking their head when they saw a specific someone responding to the invitation. Not here. Not here. Yeah, let me clarify, not here. I haven't seen it happen here. No. But no, I have in the past. Yeah, when they see that specific someone, they go almost like they're saying to themselves, yeah, I knew it. Yeah. Of course that person responds. And I'm just like, really? That's very arrogant. And very mockery-like. I've seen so many who have even chuckled and shook their head after hearing a decision that has been made by the elders, the leaders of the church, that they just disagreed with. They kind of chuckled and be like, "Oh boy, well that was a dumb decision on their part." I would have done something different. I would have decided to do something different. Yeah, but that's a laughter of fools, folks. That is a form of a laughter of the fool. So it doesn't have to be laughing out loud at inappropriate, crude humor, but it can also involve a form of arrogance and mockery kind of laughter. I'll also say one thing that does bother me is, and I guess a lot of this has to do with just a lot of things that I experienced on the reservation, but I never have any respect for anybody who is mocking or laughing at jokes that are made about drunk people. I mean, I sit there and I think of all the things that I have actually witnessed on the reservation of domestic violence because of alcohol and children growing up in physical domestic abuse and violence in the home because of alcohol and whatnot. You think that person is going to laugh at someone who's making fun of drunk people? I don't think so.
I'll have to give you an illustration.
Mhm.
And I think that we're supposed to rejoice in our life. And I think that Christians should be happy. Of all people in this world, Christians should be happy, with a happy countenance on their face, not looking to be sad and sorrowful.
Yeah.
Because we've got more reason to rejoice than the people of the world.
Yes.
But when we were in Costa Rica, the teenagers, each night, the Spanish kids did a little skit one night, and the Americans did one night. And we had 80 people at this camp. It was way up in the mountains. And the Spanish kids showed going to a party, and they were drunk. You know, they were throwing up, they were acting like they were throwing up, and it was, I mean, it was hilarious. It really was, because they were such good actors, and we couldn't understand a word of Spanish at that point, but we knew exactly what they were doing. And then they were taught, they were rebuked, and someone read them the Bible. And then they felt chagrined, and they got down on their knees, and they repented. And it was a funny little skit, and we did laugh at the drunken out things that they were showing. But it had a point to it,
It
you know,
did.
to show us that it was not good.
No, it's not good at all, and I think that's a great illustration. You know, this in regards to what we're discussing here about the laughter of fools.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, that's, you know, that's the battle that we have to deal with in our mind. You know, there's a part of us inside that we know that we just want to bust out laughing because we do see it as hilarious, and it's really, I mean, I would say that why is it that we find this specific thing hilarious is because of it could be I mean, the answers to that could be endless, as you know, why is it that we find this funny. I guess it's because of, I don't know, it's America. I mean, we laugh because it's like, yeah, that's America, all right. And then so, but
And when you see all this, someone who's acting like that and really being good at showing what a drunk person is like,
yeah,
you can't help but laugh. I mean, it is funny.
yeah, it's hard not to. But as one wise person told me, saying that you really have to be careful with what you are laughing at, because when you laugh at it, laughter is a form of approval. It can be. It can come across as a form of approval.
I think the reason that we were laughing then was because of their good acting and
the good
how
acting,
well they were performing it and
yeah,
showing us how ridiculous a drunk person looks.
yeah, it can be. But again, this is where we have to have wisdom from above. And again, think of the children who are being raised in that home where the father or the mother is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, would they find that funny? I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so at all. And so again, this is where, you know, we have to practice of making sure that we're seeing things and looking at it with wisdom from above, and asking ourselves questions like, you know, is this something that I actually should be watching? Is it something that I should be laughing at? Is this something that I should be listening to? You know, it's like that old kid song, you know, be careful little mouth what you say, be careful little eyes what you see, be careful little ears what you hear. Some would even laugh, and when they say, "Be careful, little nose, what you smell." Yeah. And so, those are questions. Those are real deep and personal questions that we really have to ask ourselves. Is, what are we laughing at? What are we listening to? Is it appropriate? Is this something where I can actually glorify God in, or not? If it's not, then best thing to do is listening to the rebuke of the wise person. Stay away from that stuff. Any thoughts on that? Any other comments?
Well, man, look at Robin Williams. He was funny. I mean, he made a lot of situations that probably stress a lot of people out.
Mm-hmm.
And when we laugh, that brings out the good in you. You're supposed to feel better about yourself, and your everyday living. If you laugh, you kind of the burdens of the world aren't as heavy on you.
Yeah.
Versus, because when I'm getting out of this is I've got to be on a straight narrow path, but at the same time, I deal with a lot of stress already at work. You got to find some kind of release.
Yeah.
I mean, yard work, it keeps me in shape and tan, but you still gotta find a happy medium as long as you don't follow through. I mean, we were talking about songs earlier, and there was a song, I can't remember the name of the band, but you might have heard the song "Pump Up the Kicks."
I think I have.
It's got a really good beat to it. You can skate to it. However, if you listen to the lyrics, it's about a boy bringing a gun and killing off this person, killing off that person. And he's mad at his dad because he's waiting for his dad to get home to give him his surprise, and if he doesn't give him his surprise, he'll pull the trigger. But until you listen to the lyrics, you're just going along with the beat if you're on roller skates or you're riding your bike or what have you.
Yeah.
So I think it's the way people perceive from music to what they laugh at, and the wisdom that I think we're trying to be taught here is to be able to see the difference.
Yes.
But you have to have an outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the roadblock I'm at. It's like straight and narrow. I mean,
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, and like I said, we have to find that way of that
happy medium.
the happy medium and whatnot, and it's what I mentioned. Like, laughter in and of itself is not a bad thing. I mean, I believe without a doubt that there's times when Jesus laughed. I mean, he used funny illustrations in his parables, and even on the Sermon on the Mount.
And some of the things that God has created are funny.
Oh,
and I know he has a sense of humor.
Oh, he does. He really does. And of course, and if we are able to laugh and we're made in his image, then that concludes that our God likes to laugh too. He's got a sense of humor.
We had, when we lived in Michigan, we had a preacher that was from Great Britain, and he almost felt like it was a sin to laugh. If we had a get-together on Saturday night, we knew we were going to get a sermon about it on Sunday morning. He just couldn't stand people having fun. And it was like, okay, this is just, he's trying to keep us damped down. And we loved each other so much, and we were in another country, and we were all really close like a family. And yes, we laughed a lot. We did things that were fun. We went for a sleigh ride in the snow, and we pushed each other off, and we'd grab each other, and the next day we had a sermon on public display of affection.
Wow. Oh boy. Wow.
So you can take anything to an extreme.
Oh yeah.
Including you've got to be this firm,
Or like the cancel culture nowadays.
Yeah.
Taking it personally. Oh, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Look at verse 16 of Ecclesiastes 7. Read that. Read that out loud. Yeah.
Do not be overly righteous, nor be overly wise.
There you go.
Why should you destroy yourself?
That is a principle in the sense of extremism. Yeah. Yep. And
Overly.
yeah, overly.
So
that's
don't be
the word.
overly
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. Don't be overly sad, or don't even be like, overly serious all the time. Don't
Uh-huh.
have that extreme serious mindedness that you always have, and thinking that you can't laugh. I mean, you can't smile, and it's like, oh, give me a break. I mean, if we are able to laugh at silly things, then yeah, that goes to show that we're made in God's image, and that God therefore has a sense of humor himself. And so again, laughter, music, in and of themselves, they're not bad. It's just we have to find that balance of, okay, is this something that I know that Jesus would laugh at if he was sitting right here next to me? And here's the thing, I mean, we know. I mean, we really know. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's a no-brainer in the sense of answering those questions. And of course, if we do have a hard time trying to figure out if this is something that he would or would not laugh at, then we need to go to the scriptures and look at the mind of Christ. Look at his character. I'll tell you what, I mean, Arthur, he's one that makes Angel and I just laugh uncontrollably. Man, he is at that point where he is just like a monkey. Yeah. And I will say that, I mean, even just listening to him, during services and whatnot, I mean, see, right now, just that right there just makes me want to laugh.
He loves for you to laugh at him.
He does, yeah.
He knows that he's made you happy.
Yep.
You can, at this early age, I can tell when you laugh at him, he's happy.
Yeah. And sometimes, of course, we need to ask ourselves, is this the time to laugh at it? Because we don't want to encourage him, because sometimes when we laugh, we're encouraging them to do it even more.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a very simple understanding in the sense of figuring out what it is that we can laugh at and what we shouldn't laugh at is just by asking ourselves the question, is this something that my Lord and Savior would laugh at if he was sitting right next to me? I would say that if it involves anything that's worldly and just unorthodox or just ungodly and just
Or hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And they laugh because they've done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like if I slip on a wet floor at work, I said, well, you can laugh, but help me up.
Yeah.
And I've done it. Not once, but a couple times.
Yeah. Well, folks, I mean, if there's not anything else, I think we have hit our mark.
What does crackling thorn bushes, like dry thorn bushes?
It's
Putting a pot on it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it
Oh,
would
they
be.
will
It'd be.
pop.
Yeah, they will
They
pop.
pop.
Yeah, and what happens is that when they pop, you see sudden flames. You see like a sudden quick flame, and then it vanishes. He's comparing that to the laughter of fools. He's saying that your laughter just pops up like a little flame, like a thorn bush that's popping underneath a kettle, or nettles under a kettle, and then it just fades out like real quickly. Yeah. He says that's what the laughter of fools is all about. Any other thoughts or comments on this? So let's make sure that the songs we listen to are godly, and that
Yeah, the house
the
of
laughter
mourning.
that we have is godly laughter.
I
What?
do have a question on
Yes.
the house of mourning.
Yes.
Why do we say good morning? And that
This is
kind
different morning.
Oh, this is a different morning. Yeah, this is
M-O-U-R.
this is
I-N-G.
yeah, this is M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G.
Well, I mean, I know there's different spelling, but like the root of it. Because like it's better to be at the house of mourning, like the funeral,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because basically are celebrating that they are not having to go through any more trials or tribulations or done with life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me get my thought process here. So like the start of the day, we have to go through the trials and tribulations like life.
Mm.
You see where I'm going with
Yeah.
the morning?
Yeah. Is that where? That's actually a good question. I would not know the answer to that. If it's actually from the same root.
So I've been trying to get in the habit of saying, "Hi, have a hi, or Happy New Day,"
Yeah.
something along that line, because it's easy to associate morning with like it's supposed to be happy with morning.
Yeah.
You know,
I see where you're saying that. I mean, it's just basically.
the word scrumble.
Yeah, word scrambled. Well, I love doing word studies. I love looking at the Hebrew words. I love looking at the Greek words. I love doing a word study. Now, I'll take a look into that and see if the root words are actually relatable.
Because I've been kind of getting into some of the like from the translations, how they're translated differently
Yeah.
and interpreted differently.
Yeah.
Like morning is one of them that I've been realizing I'm gonna have to have a brother call about that.
Yeah.
Because like, why do we tell everybody good morning when it should be have a happy day? Because it's
Yeah.
more positive. It's not. It's
Yeah.
kind of like for suppression.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Versus-
in Hebrew, I mean, during their time, they used the word shalom. They'd say shalom to you. Yeah, which means, peace be with you, and whatnot. And so that is, which is, shalom comes from, is where city of Jerusalem, you see Salam and Shalom, and so Jerusalem is supposed to be like, the city of peace and whatnot. And so Shalom was their greeting, natural greeting at that time, that they would say before and after they depart. Yeah, so when they greet, it's Shalom, and then when they depart, it's Shalom be with you. Yeah.
I mean, there's another one is that the Hawaiian
Aloha.
aloha is
Yeah,
same
same
coming
way.
and going.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty
I
neat, huh?
I thought it was fascinating how words can be multiple meanings or manipulated depending on
Mhm.
the circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so what helps, I guess, in figuring out which definition, which way to be translated is, as I always say, is context. Context always determines the meaning on how the word is used. And so, but I'll take a look into that good morning phrase and actually see if there's anything that's relatable to the Hebrew word for morning. That's actually pretty interesting.
When
So-
you think about evening, Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
my afternoon I had figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, let me take a look into that. That's pretty interesting.
I have an unusual mind.
I'd say it's a unique and tricky mind. All right, well, let's actually close out in a prayer, and then we'll be dismissed. Father in heaven, we come before you, and we thank you so much just for this time that we had of continuing on studying through Ecclesiastes as we continue on looking at the better things in life. When we see it from a human perspective, we're probably a little bit, we're left with question, but when we look at it through wisdom from above, we can see and understand why these particular things are better for us. Being at the house in mourning is better, and having a reputation, a good name is better, and also hearing the rebuke from a wise person is better, as well as making sure that we discern the difference on the things that are appropriate to listen to as far as music wise, and as far as jokes or things that we laugh at. We have to make sure that they're things that you would laugh at, and make sure that we are living off as a good example, as one who is good, walking through this life with wisdom from above. And Father, we just also need to make sure and understand that we are advertising your Son and his church through our conversations, our words, and also through our conduct, our deeds and actions. And we want to make sure that those things are leaving off as a good example for others to be able to see your Son Jesus through us. We don't want to give the church a bad reputation, or we don't want to advertise it poorly. We want to advertise it positively with godliness. And so, Father, give us strength that we need into really keeping ourselves diligent and having self-discipline and understanding that it matters, the things that we are laughing at and the songs that we are listening to. Make sure that they are acceptable in your sight. And we ask that you continue on just being with us, and as we leave here and as we get a good night's rest, may we sleep with heaven on our mind, and may we wake up, if it's according to your will, next morning with heaven on our mind. We thank you for all that you do, and it's in your Son's name that we pray.